Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Excited to have you join us for another installment of our Meet Our Community series. This one is focusing on our families at Giddens, and I'm delighted to, in a moment, have our panel of families introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what brought them to Giddens. If you've joined any of these calls previously, you know that really this is meant to be mostly a Q&A. So I hope you brought questions for our panel, but we are just really, our goal is to just be in conversation with you and to be able to answer any questions you might have. Obviously, this one will really focus on family experience because we know that that's important as well for prospective families to understand this community from our current families. So we will let's get started, and if I could just ask our panel to just start going around and introducing themselves. Feel free, anyone who wants to start us off, and maybe mention the grade your child's in. I know you put it in your name as well, and then kind of what brought you to Giddens.
I'm happy to start. My name is Sarah, and I have a daughter in preschool in Steve's class. And we were introduced to Giddens through a friend who also has a preschooler as well as a first grader. So I think having that direct experience and referral was really helpful. And it's close to our house, so the proximity was appealing as well. And I think a particular thing that I was looking for and have really enjoyed is just the high level of communications that Giddens has. I think it's my first child. There was a pandemic. It felt like Giddens had a nice level of handholding that I really enjoyed.
I can go next. I'm Margaret. This is our 5th year at Giddens. I have 3 kids there, 1 in 4th and 2 kids in 1st, twins. We came to Giddens, chose Giddens. Well, my oldest actually chose Giddens. We applied to all the schools, and he was very attached and drawn to Giddens after the visit. And the takeaway from that from my family was that he was seen. And so I have 3 very different boys, and they're all seen at Giddens for who they are and valued, and different strengths and different struggles. And so that was why we came to Giddens. The biggest surprise for me has just been, truly, it's been like an amazing community for me. So our family has met just amazing people. It's just a huge part of our life now.
Hi, I'm Tessa. I have a son in kindergarten and a daughter going into kindergarten, and I have a similar message. The school's warmth and kindness was a #1 draw for us when we were looking at schools. Our son Jack is supported by a speech therapist and an occupational therapist, and we were looking for a school that we could truly partner home and school with. And I would have to say that there is no detail too small for the faculty at this school. And every day when I go to write my emails, I never hold back about something that I may want to talk to a teacher about, and that those messages kind of go up to the greater kind of like faculty chain at this school, and you get the support from the whole school. So it's been a wonderful experience.
I'm happy to go next. I'm Ronan Alad. I have a son in 2nd grade at Giddens. This is our 4th year at Giddens. I think what drew us to Giddens was, like a lot of people have said already, the community. I remember one thing in particular. I was at a session kind of like the one we're in right now, although that one was live because it was pre-pandemic, or sorry, in person. And there was a question asked by a parent in the audience saying, what do you guys do for gifted kids? And the response was, every kid is gifted. They're just gifted in different ways. And our job as a school is to find those gifts and help those kids develop them and turn into kind of whole human beings. And that answer just absolutely resonated with me and my wife. And we knew that this was the place for us once we heard that.
Hi, I'm Tendi. I have a daughter in Hiromi's kindergarten class. This is our first year at Giddens. We did the standard thing where you apply to every single place in Seattle and stress yourself out. But my daughter's occupational therapist and psychiatrist were both like, oh, well, we really feel like your daughter would really thrive at the Giddens school. And I took it to my therapist and I was like, I'm so stressed out about all this school stuff. She's like, oh my God, I know who to Giddens. And you would not believe this woman. If they have stayed true to the mission of Who to Giddens, this is the school for you. The community is fantastic. I found the support for my child who is autistic to be amazing. They're, like everything. The teachers are fantastic. There is no detail too small to be like, hey, I have a question, or hey, my child mentioned something and I want to get an adult's read on it. I never feel like I'm putting somebody out of their way by asking for what I need. And that has been so enormous. And my kid loves the school. Oh my gosh, fantastic.
Guess I'll go next. Hi, I'm Joaquin Hernandez. I have a daughter in 4th and a son in 2nd, and we joined Giddens when my daughter was entering 2nd grade. A lot of it was driven due to the pandemic and the way that Giddens was handling that whole process. But we stayed because of the diversity in the school. It's incredibly diverse, and some of the social justice programming that the school instills in the children. And like Tendi, my kids love going to school, which as a parent, you are always thankful for.
I can go next. Bernie, Sarah and Sarah's kid and my kid are both in preschool together, and we chose Giddens because of the location. We're only a few blocks away, but what really drew us in, we also had a friend who really suggested that we look at Giddens, and she mentioned, and I found this to be true, really was the community. We went to a daycare before this, and we were really looking for a parent community to find support in, and it's been so great to be able to find that at Giddens and to talk with other parents, and it's really encouraged to get in touch with each other and talk to each other about the ups and downs of having a kid and all that stuff. What I've also found in the classroom is just a lot of competence in the teachers. They're just really in with the kids and they just want to know them individually, and it's been so great. Certainly the diversity and social justice, the kindness, it's all of those things. And the other thing I would just add to what everyone else is saying is Eli's ability to be able to interact with other kids at other grades. So he can see what a 1st grader looks like, a 2nd grader, what they're working on. And he's been able to kind of piece things together that I think has been really unique at Giddens for him. So yeah, we're liking it.
I think our entire panel has introduced themselves. So thank you all. I appreciate that. And now we'll open it up to our guests with us. If you have questions, feel free to unmute. I'll also manage the chat. So if you'd rather put your question in the chat, I can manage it that way as well.
Well, I can get started. This is Stefan. Hi, nice to meet you all. And I think you pretty much answered 90% of my questions already. So, but I was particularly interested in hearing more about the family communities that you described briefly. Maybe you can talk more about this, how parents interact, how they support each other, how that helps with the upbringing of their own children, and what kind of mechanisms you have in place to communicate and how you do it.
I'm happy to start here. Giddens has a lot in place. They have a Giddens Community Association, which is sort of like the foundation of parent or caregiver involvement. We have class reps. I've been a class rep for, I think, all 5 years now in multiple classes. And so it's, people are just sort of communicating. There's regular get-togethers. The school fosters like movie nights, some things in the summer to help, connect new families. I don't know, if Ken, if you're still doing buddy families for incoming families. And there's just lots of get-togethers. Communications are happening. I know personally, I got a divorce while here, and my kid's dad moved out of state. And the involvement of other parents and helping that transition and sort of taking my kids places. And I got a random go to event this Friday, and I had like 7 people offer to take my kids overnight. It's just, people know your children. My children know so many different adults. And it's lovely that they trust them and they communicate with them. It's just lovely.
And just to add to that point on that, class rep in every class is different. Every class has class reps, though. I can tell you in our class, we just had a class play date at Jefferson Park over the weekend that I think 12 of the 20 kids showed up to. We're organizing a movie night where we're going to use the gym at Giddens for a class movie night where we're going to show a movie. There are, I think one of the greatest examples of community is kind of what Margaret was talking about, but in a deeper sense, there have been several families that have gone through hardships while they have been at Giddens over the last couple of years. And there's always a message from somebody in the administration saying, hey, there's a family, they wish to remain anonymous, they could use some food, can we get a meal train together for them? And those always tend to be fully subscribed.
I think also, I don't, Ken, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't know if it's a requirement, but it's a strong suggestion that, us as parents get involved in the community, either as a class rep or serving on a committee, but definitely volunteering. It's really cool that our kids see their parents be involved in the school community. And that's how organically you really get to meet a lot of the parents and get to know them and foster that relationship in an organic way.
The school also hosts affinity spaces for different groups of people. Our family is in the neurodiverse family group and the queer family group. I know that the school has several others to provide spaces for collaboration and getting to know other families in different grades that might share common interests or families, which it's been nice for us.
I would just add that the families that go to Giddens are looking for that connection, and so there's never been a family or another parent that I've met that are like, let's get together for a play date, like let's try to do this together. And the fact that our kiddo knows their parents pretty well from picking them up or dropping them off, it just provides this kind of safe environment for him to just know like where we're going and meeting up with kids. So we had a meetup this last weekend too, and there were a lot of kids there as well. Oh, I wanted to mention the database too. That was super helpful for me as a new family to get in, to be able to look up so you can look up all the kids, but then the kids are linked to their parents. So you can also say like, I met so-and-so's parent, kiddo's parent. And so I can put together like, oh, their parents are this kid's parents are this is their names. And you can choose to put your contact information in there as well, which is really super helpful, so we can stay in contact. So my kiddo made a connection pretty early to one of the other kiddos in his class. And so we're like, let's text, let's be in touch so that we know that we can get together.
Ken, I have a question. If anyone's willing to share, it might be a bit of a harder one. I'd love if anyone is willing to offer it, to know a time when your kiddo had a struggle, and it could be anything, and like how you worked as a team with the Giddens teachers and staff, and like worked your kid through it. I don't know if that's too hard of a question, but
I'll take it.
yeah.
We're in the middle of it right now. My kiddo had made one of those like on first sight not getting along people, and they were seated together in the classroom, and things kind of, was sniping back and forth verbally, and then they were kind of pushing, and it got to a point where they were sort of unable to interact in a positive way. And first I heard from our kindergarten teacher, who sent me notes. Hey, we seem to be having a little bit of a struggle here. Then I heard from my kid, hey, we're having a little bit of a struggle here. And what most recent intervention was, the school counselor reached out to me and was like, hey, I've noticed this dynamic developing. It doesn't seem to be, it's getting better, but not at the rate we'd love to see. I'm going to send your kiddo home with this book, Enemy Pie. And I'd love it if you guys read this book over the weekend, and we're going to do some supervised collaborative play dates in the school counselor's office while we work on maybe interacting with one another and building some positive memories. We're going to move them apart from each other in the classroom and work on fostering really positive interactions to overwrite this negative interaction that they started off with at the beginning of the year. And we're still working on it, but I have seen a positive change, and the amount of negative reports I'm getting from my own child who comes home and wants to unload about her day there's been a decent change. And I was really impressed with the way that both the teaching staff engaged and the school counselor came to me at the same time as my kid was talking to me about it. Like, I didn't have to go to them. They came to me about it.
Amazing. Thank you.
I'm happy to share one too. Back in the pandemic year, one of the amazing things about Giddens was that in the fall of 2020, class was in session in person. But it was done in a hermetically sealed way, where there was a teacher and there were 10 students, and they were in a room, and they didn't play with other groups of kids. They didn't see other teachers for the most part. It was very much kind of a small island of kids, which was awesome because they were actually in there interacting with other kids. But at the same time, you put a group of 10 kids together for 8 or 9 hours a day, every single day, and there are going to be some tensions that develop and some things that need to be managed. And there were some issues, at least in our group, around how the kids were playing with each other. And they're kindergartners, they're still learning how to interact and how to be. And it caused some tension with the kids who were bringing back reports to their parents. And then it developed into something which the teacher group and the administration group really worked hard on. And to the same point, they worked with the kids on how to play appropriately. What are the right ways to kind of have those play interactions, how to kind of redirect and get kids on the right paths, which for the most part has developed really well over the last couple of years. But I thought one of the most important things they said was, look, we are here to work with your kids, to help your kids solve their problems. We're not here to solve your problems for you. You guys are the parents, you're grownups. You need to be able to figure this out amongst yourselves. We're focused on the kids here. And it was awesome. And it was great. It was the right message that needed to go out to everybody. And Giddens did what it needed to do in order to kind of reset the path for that group of kids.
Thank you, Ron.
I have a story that's a little bit different in the sense that, we've been there for 5 years with 3 kids. There's been stuff. But my oldest is a rule follower. And so what's great is that his kindergarten teacher identified that and was helping him embrace breaking rules. So they don't want just like the compliant kid who doesn't take up space because it's easier for them. So, and then at one point, this teacher also has a child at school, and she was complaining for the first time about my son, Nat, and because he was like answering the question too quickly and not letting other kids have a chance. And Portia, the teacher, was like, yes, he's finally breaking some rules. So I loved that she could see the different side of things and encourage him to push himself and be that kid to take up some space.
Really cool. Thank you.
I can provide one last example that's more like preschool specific, which is I have a summer baby. And so she's entering preschool, but she's on the younger end of her year. And obviously developmentally at that age, like between 3 and 4, there's, you know, a lot that happens. And I was really impressed the way in which Steve and Isabel handled potty training, which is, you know, such a big developmental thing that kids that age are going through, and that it wasn't this black and white, like your kid has to be potty trained to be at this school, like no ifs, ands, or buts. It was like, we're going to meet them where they're at and kind of figure out how to not stigmatize or, you know, just help them throughout the day and give us really detailed reports. And that was really, really awesome to see.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, in the fall of 2021, my wife was diagnosed with cancer, and you know that presented some difficult conversations with our children. Before we talked with our children, we touched base with Giddens and talked with their counselor, you know, counselor on staff, and she was extremely helpful and gave us some material to review. And you know, we had the conversation with the children, and we followed up with the counselor, who would check in, if not every day, every other day with our children, just to touch base and see what they were feeling, what, you know, what they wanted to talk about, which we found very helpful. So, you know, as Ronan alluded to, you have those big family hardships, and even the small ones. This one today, you know, my son sprained his ankle and he's back on a knee scooter, and you can imagine the curiosity that presents when he showed up at school. But the observation I made this morning is like all his classmates rallied around him and say, "Hey, are you okay? Man, we're sorry this happened to you. Just let us know what we can do to help you." And that really reflects of what these children learn, at least on a social level, at this school.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
I think
I was wondering.
sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
I thought I could just add a story about this, how small the detail you can get to with your teacher. But the first week, we made a classic mistake of getting a backpack too big for Jack for kindergarten, too big for his back, too many zips. And within the first few days, teacher Portia came back to us and said, "Okay, let's get a really cool keychain to go on the middle zip, and let's set Jack up for success to be able to independently kind of unload into his cubby." And then we got inside the backpack and we loaded too many snack boxes, too many extra clothes. And still today, we're still fine tuning what goes in Jack's backpack and where, so that he can independently come into the school and unload his kit and at the end of the day, pack it up again. So yeah, I just wanted to share an example about how fine-tuned you can get to really kind of set up your kid for success.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
I was wondering, you know, you all know your children best. What would you say your kid would say their favorite thing about going to Giddens is?
All schools sing. Hands down. She every month, the entire school gets together in the auditorium and has like a little sing along, and parents are welcome, or family friends or whatever, but it's at the end of the day, like third Friday or second Friday of the month. I should know this, it's in my calendar. But she loves the community vibe of everybody just getting together, hanging out, and just singing some songs. And it's another lovely little bit of community, you know?
That's very sweet. It actually made me smile really big. I had a question about parents getting involved. I heard that there are different committees and class rep, that there are these various opportunities. So what would you be able to speak in more detail about those things?
I'd be happy to. I was on the Giddens Community Association last year as the class rep coordinator. So it was my job and another parent's job to kind of help provide resources to the class reps across the various classrooms. There is a Giddens Community Association, which is a very non-hierarchical group. It's not like there's a president or a vice president or whatever. There are different people who volunteer and take on different kind of leadership aspects around the community association, which is really, think of it as kind of a PTA. And there are different focus areas, some of which are around teacher appreciation, teacher and staff appreciation, some of which have involved like beautifying some of the landscape around special projects, etc. I can speak to the class rep one specifically, which the idea is that every classroom should have one or two class reps who serve a few functions, one of which is to build that classroom community, and another one of which is to provide support for the teacher to make sure that the teacher, to the extent that there are things that they need in order to make their teaching more effective or classroom more effective, whether it be, having people sign up for, in our classroom, there's a secret reader where a parent comes in once a month and reads a book to the classroom, and it's a secret and it's a mystery until that parent actually shows up. It could be anything from that to getting some additional supplies for particular projects. And then to, as I was saying, organizing meetups and get-togethers. We have a classroom WhatsApp channel where we say, hey, we're going to the museum this weekend. Does anyone want to join? Those sorts of things. So lots of opportunities to volunteer in that regard. Others may have more context on other volunteer opportunities. I know that there are various board committees, advancement committees. I'm sure Ken can speak to that as well.
And we can give some time back to Carissa's question if any families wanted to add. I think the question was related to like what your child really enjoys or appreciates about Giddens School.
Sure, I can add. My oldest would always say Spark. I don't know. I know Spark is unique to Giddens, so I don't know if anyone has any questions about what it is, but it's like a social justice. It's like STEAM plus social justice. That's sort of how I describe it in a nutshell. And he would very much say that since he started in kindergarten. He's in 4th grade. And my twins would probably say recess, which is sweet. And they have lots of recesses, which I love. They get out a lot. I also love that like they sort of band the recesses together by age at certain parts. And there's also a big recess. And so the kids mix. And my twins play Foursquare and soccer a lot, and they tend to be the younger ones. And it's lovely to watch the older kids like welcome them and be patient and, in the Foursquare, maybe toss it instead of like, bomb it. So it's lovely to see.
My kiddo, he doesn't really want to talk about school after school. I think it's just a really long day for him. But if I had to sort of categorize the things that he talks about the most, it's all the different classes that he gets to take different classes every day. So they kind of mix it up. So they have Spanish one day and they have, like a gym class, and then they have just different class, Spark class, social emotional learning class. And so we'll ask him about those things and he'll say, I don't want to talk about it, but then he will talk about it. He'll say, oh, I learned this today. Or did you know that, butterflies come from cocoons? Did you know that, that whales live underwater? So he, we're still in that very toddler stage of like, no, I'm too cool to talk to you about that. But he does talk a lot about all the different classes. My favorite story was, so there's a Spanish class that they take. And I said, oh, Eli, do you know Spanish? And he said, no, I don't know Spanish. And then sang this whole song in Spanish, just blurted it out. And I said, so you just sang a song in Spanish, so you do know how to speak Spanish. So so the way that they're incorporating those different classes, I think is really helpful for him just to kind of break up the monotony of the week. yeah, so it's been really cool to see just how much he's learning in this first. He's only been there for a few months, but just how much he's taken in and learned in Steve and Isabel's class.
I think also another advantage, especially for the preschoolers who may ordinarily be in a setting that's just kind of daycare preschool, to have that exposure to the facilities that, you know, like with Eli and Simone, they get to go to this big, beautiful gym and have a gym teacher and a Spanish teacher. And I think that's a little atypical probably for a preschool experience. And, you know, having kind of the partnership with buddies from different classrooms, which is really nice. We ran into actually one of the heads of school at Red Apple the other day, and she knew Simone's name, which Simone was just like floored by. And so was I, to be honest, because there's a lot of kids at the school. And so just that, it's like, oh, wow, they really are, you know, interacting with our kids, and she's getting a lot of different relationships with different adults and different age groups.
Yeah, it's funny. I see the other side of the buddy relationship because my son is a second grader and his buddy is a preschooler. And he's been talking a lot about how he's trying to build a toy for his preschool buddy, but his preschool buddy wants a working car with an engine, and my son doesn't know how to build that for him. So they're working through the details of that. But I think if you asked him what his favorite thing about Giddens is, I think depending on the year you asked him, it would be a different teacher, and it's always the teacher that he has. Like every year he has just loved his teacher, and no exception this year.
The buddy program has been a hit for my kiddo as well. She has 2 buddies, and she walks me down the hallway after pickup every day to show me the drawing that all 3 of them made of themselves that's posted on the wall, so she can show me and remind me of the names of her buddies, because they're just the coolest kids in all of Giddens.
Sorry, I have to unmute myself. There's a question in the chat here. At Giddens, for students who are very shy, how do teachers and staff support them to speak up on more on what they need, like asking for help or needing to use the bathroom? For pre-K, do they get bathroom breaks, or is more of they need to ask to go? And I'm happy to give it to the panel, and I'm happy to add anything if people need help with that.
I can start. I think my child probably errs on the more introverted, shy side. And I think for bathroom breaks in particular, she's in preschool, not pre-K, but Steve, her teacher, would suggest a lot throughout the day, which I think kids at that age find really helpful, because otherwise distractions, etc. So he was really mindful about taking the time to suggest to her, and probably all the other kids, which I think really helped. She'd cut back and really fully eliminate accidents at school. And I think that he is also able to sort of have moments with her that are a little more social, whereas, you know, she might be a kid who would lean inwards a little bit and be a little bit more shy.
Yeah, and my kid is very extroverted. And you know, he still is having accidents at school and all this stuff because he just doesn't want to stop. He just wants to run around in circles, and going potty is like doesn't want to do that. So it's amazing how much Steve and Isabel and the other teachers in their classroom just know them, like on an individual level. So they know that when Eli's dancing and doesn't want to go, that he has to go. So they just kind of work with them individually. It was really great for me as a new family that they invited us into the school, like as an individual family, to meet with the teacher so that we could talk and introduce Eli to the room. He loves cars. I wonder if like Eli is your kiddo's like partner because he loves cars. So he knew where the cars were right away when he came to school that first day. He knew like there was this giant fire truck that he could play with, and so specific things that really helped us in that first transition because we weren't sure how it was going to go. And then finally, I would say the teachers are so incredibly patient. I mean, Steve and Isabel, I'm like, I don't know how they do their job. Honestly, I think I would just like be popping Advil every minute if I was in their classroom, because it is so much. There's just so much happening in there all the time. So they're just really, really good at what they do. And my kiddo has been able to like explore all of the ups and downs of his emotions with Steve. And Steve is just like, we're working on it. He's working on these things, and really sees and really like tries to make it part of his process individually. So I really appreciated that. I don't know about the specific breaks. I don't know, Ken, do you know that?
So in preschool and pre-K specifically, there are bathrooms located in each of the classrooms, and they were designed and built with fixtures that actually, you know, accommodate small bodies, which is extremely helpful when you're helping kids develop their potty habits and being successful around that. And so because of that close proximity in the classroom, it's easy for teachers to both give kids reminders as they need reminders and just support their need to use the, you know, restroom as they need to use it during the day.
I was just gonna chime in about shy kids. I don't have shy kids. Ken can agree. I do not have shy kids, but I have a lot of friends who have shy kids. And so sort of what Bernie was talking about, you have a meeting in the beginning of the year with the teacher, a meet and greet, but you also fill out a survey about your kids. And the teachers read this, and you can specify that, you know, they might need help in some areas, they might need more guidance in taking up some space, all of that. And so I know my friends with shy kids, like their conferences spend a lot of time finding ways that they can sort of embrace the side and make sure that the child can be seen and feels comfortable in sharing. I know one of my more even louder of my three gets paired a lot with shyer kids to sort of help, and he's very patient, to sort of help them come out of their shell as well, as sort of a guide. I don't know if that helps. I think it's ironic that like none of us are, you know, all the parents on the panel are like, we don't have shy kids. There's a reason we're on the panel. We volunteered because we probably, you know, are more talkative, and so maybe our kids are as well.
Add a note there about how welcome the parents are in the classroom. So if you have any concerns about your kid, you can sit at the end of day by your kid's cubby and chat with the other kids and chat with your teacher as a touch point and kind of be as much as part of that classroom time as you'd like to be. I think that that's been a wonderful comfort coming in as a new family with a kindergartner, is how welcome you are in the school building itself to spend time there, to see your kid in action with their peers and kind of know going home with your kids, oh, maybe this is something we could work on or talk about, you know, with your teacher in the future. It's a very open door school.
I'm just looking at the time here, is if there's another question, I think we have time for that. And then
Did we
or
for the committee's question enough? Did you get enough information about the committees, or do we want to revisit that question?
I think I got a pretty good sense, just knowing that there are various avenues for parent involvement. that's really good to know because both parents work in this household and the timing is always like, we need a little bit more than like one or two options. And so that having the different avenues is really, really good to hear.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is at the beginning of the year, they ask the family members to fill out a survey about what are your areas of interest in volunteering. And there are a lot of different committees you can look at. You can see the descriptions and you can check off a box of the ones you're interested. It's not a promise. You're not making a commitment to join those, but it kind of gives the school an understanding of where your interest in volunteering lies, so you can be paired in the right direction.
And I haven't been able to I'm on like 3 committees, but the invites are open for 3 committees, I would say. And I've been able to kind of pop into different ones. And they've always been very welcoming of my voice, even if I haven't been at the meeting before. So same as you, both working parents, we're super busy. They hold a lot of the meetings during the day. So usually around this time, around lunchtime, which is really helpful for me to be able to like eat lunch, participate in the school, give some feedback, lend a hand where I can. So they do make it fairly easy. And then sometimes there are things after school too. So you can also kind of get connected that way.
Well, great. Thank you all for joining us, and much thanks to my panel of families for sharing a little bit about your experience and your kids' experience. We'll be closing out this series this week, so we'll have our ECE panel on when is it? On Thursday, and then tomorrow we have our rescheduled panel with our specialist teachers. And again, we'll have all of those recordings available, but really appreciate those of you who have joined this call and your continued investment in getting to know this community. We really appreciate that time and thoughtfulness you're putting into your decision-making process. So thank you. Have a great day, everyone. And we'll see you around. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.